Welcome back, Still Nation Live, Big Tiz.
I'm Big O.
2015 Still Nation Live mock draft. Big O, it's been a long time, but we're back, brother.
Right, seems like yesterday when we did our last show, our last final goodbye of the 2014 season, but we are back. Back in action, ready to give you our draft picks, our Steel Nation Live mock draft for 2015 season. Plus, we also have news and other things we want to discuss that happened, after the season, during the last season, or whatnot. But before we begin, Big Tiz, let's thank our returning sponsors from last year. Number one, Sal from McGinney's, 2246 East River Road, Rochester. McGinney's, check them out. Go to their website, www.mcginneys.com. Check out their full menu, their hours of operation, what you can buy, what you can do, and everything going on at McGinney's. Also,
Uniform Express, 1408 Buffalo Road. Go there to get your police supplies, fireman supplies. These guys sponsor us a lot, and they stay behind us, so we're going to stay behind them here on Still Nation Live, Big O.
Yeah, that's Buffalo Road. It's 1408 Buffalo Road, Rochester, New York, 14624 is the zip code. If you want the phone number, it's 585 area code 529-4245. Call Brian, tell him Steel Nation Live sent you there. You get a nice discount. Also, not to forget to mention Otto Tomatoes. Now, they're just kind of coming new to Steel Nation Live, but it's a little drive out to Victor. It's Route 96, 300 Victor, Town Line Road, whatever you want to call it there. Out in Victor. Great Italian food. Nothing, extravagant, but you get the extravagant food and the taste and not the extravagant prices. And the phone number there, Otto Tomatoes, is 585. That's area code 742-7070. And we want to thank the Auditorium Theater at Roosevelt University for letting Big Tiz and Big O come inside and do our mock draft for you, folks.
Well, guys, like we said, the mock draft is here on Still Nation Live, long awaited. And as Big O alluded to earlier, there were a lot of things that happened in the offseason, but we can go back what happened to last year and last year's mock draft and the things that happened with the Steelers in their draft last year, Big O.
Yeah, last year we ended up with an 11-5 record, not that bad. But the thing about it is it could have been a lot better. We lost a few games that we shouldn't have lost. But, that goes to show we made the playoffs.
Right.
Unfortunately, we lost to the Ravens 30-17 at home, which is not a good thing. But, it's a wake-up call, and it's how the team matures.
Exactly. And like I said, from last year, the Steelers, a whole new nucleus of players coming in, had some old players still there, Harrison, Polamalu, Ike Taylor were still there, and the things but the record for the Steelers wasn't bad. And I thought they were going to do a lot worse than they did, maybe 6-10, I was thinking last year, but 11-5 record and first in the AFC North, Big O.
Yeah, let's not forget, major injuries to key players. Jarvis Jones, Ryan Shazier went down early in the season. It's hard to get that momentum back, but 11-5 record is nothing to shy away about. It's a pretty good, solid record. We took the division as we usually do, or we should, 11-5. But
right.
But that's how it goes. And hopefully, this year, after we go later in the show, we talk about this upcoming schedule. I also predict an 11-5 season, and we'll get into that later during the show when we go over the schedule for this year.
And in that season, we had a lot of MVPs that came up out of there. Le'Veon Bell still controlling the ball, doing what he does, a young stud for the Steelers. He's back and doing his thing. This upcoming year, though, he's going to go through his little trial and tribulations. Like we said, we're going to miss him for the first 3 games of 2015. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But also, Rookie of the Year, Martavis Bryant.
Yeah,
what explosion this guy came out into the Steelers with these touchdown catches. This guy, the long frame, the long body, the hands. We were missing this guy. This guy almost had that same form as a Lima Swede, but he had the hands that Limas didn't.
Right, and he also had the height. And out of the last year's draft class, Martavis was supposed to be the weaker of the 7.
Right.
And he was supposed to be the one to get the squeaky wheel gets the grease. He was supposed to be the one that was supposed to get the most attention to get under Antonio's wing and just develop that way. Slowly develop. Take your time. There's no rush. But this kid came up Rookie of the Year for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hey, that's how things happen. Like we said, we're going to keep this thing moving and keep it flowing along here on this 2015 Steelers Nation Live mock draft. And there are a lot of things that happen during the offseason for the Steelers. And usually Steelers keep kind of low-key during the season. But this year, a lot of things came out. We had a lot of retirings. We actually had, guys re-signed who we didn't think would be re-signed. There were a lot of things going on in Pittsburgh, Big O.
Right. First major thing, Troy Polamalu retiring. Why is it a big thing? Because he didn't have to retire, pretty much. I mean, with Dick LeBeau leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers and going over to the Tennessee Titans, that was very enticing for, a Steeler who's leaving Pittsburgh to go to a good, solid team, a young team, an up-and-coming team is the Titans. And with Dick LeBeau having anything to do with that's a pull me in to get on the team.
Right.
And Troy was, he was up in the air for, he didn't really know what to do, but I think he made the right decision by choosing to retire, going out on top, not necessarily as a Super Bowl champion, even though he's been to 3 Super Bowls, has 2 Super Bowl rings, 5 Pro Bowl appearances, and he's been with the Steelers for 12 years, drafted.
Yeah, he went out the way a player should go out at his caliber. He went out respected by the league. I believe they even had a Troy Polamalu Day there in Pittsburgh. This guy is a phenomenal player. First drafted in the first round, 16th pick out of USC 2003. Ike Taylor was actually drafted within that class as well, Big O.
Yeah, 4th round, I believe, 125th pick overall, that same draft class, and he retired the same year. That's pretty cool, pretty neat. You don't see that too often.
And if you go over the numbers what Polamalu had with the Steelers, 12 years in the NFL, career stats, tackles, 770 tackles. This guy is what you call a machine at safety. 12 sacks, forced fumbles 14, interceptions 32. This guy, he made the plays the Steelers need at crucial situations in games, especially big-time playoff games. The Ravens don't like him at all, and could you blame him? You know what I'm saying? But this guy is what you want in a prototype type NFL player.
Absolutely, and also as like an added bonus to the salary cap for next year, we saved the Pittsburgh Steelers $8.25 million towards the cap, which helps us immensely. Mm-hmm. And a little side note about the character of Troy Polamalu. Out of the 12 years that he played with the Pittsburgh Steelers, 9 concussions. That's a concussion a year.
Right.
And that's only, we talk about this, that's only the reported ones. Those aren't the ones that before everybody started going nuts about, concussion tests and all this stuff. How many did he actually have during seasons? Because he had his bell rung many, many times. He handed it out, but he took the punishment as well.
Yeah. And speaking, and as we mentioned with Troy Polamalu retiring, Ike Taylor decided to hang up his cleats as well. Ike Taylor, I believe he played 12 years in the league as well. He came in with Polamalu.
Right.
And, Ike had some good years. He had some bad years. But the fact is, he still played in the backfield with Troy. They both, helped a well-oiled machine, have good impact on the Steelers at times. And you know what? He was a part of that.
Right. Feast and famine with Ike Taylor. I mean, this guy was either covering you or he was lost.
Right.
Either making interceptions or getting burned. So, I mean, it was, he paid his time in Pittsburgh. The city of Pittsburgh loves him. I know I talk about it. I bash him a lot because that's out of, obviously a frustration. And folks at home, you could probably agree with me on this. When he comes with the big interceptions, he's a hero, but he gets burned more than not. So, with that being said, we wish him nothing but, well in the future, his endeavors. Maybe team up with Ryan Clark with ESPN. Maybe, we don't know. He might have...
I believe he's doing a lot of spots on ESPN, so he's kind of gearing himself in that direction. So, like I said, this guy will do well in the retirement, and we respect you as well. I mean, we did have sore feelings here and there, but you were an older player trying to cover these younger guys. Much respect. It's easy for us guys to sit here on the couch and do Monday morning quarterback when we're not the one that's in the game. And this guy, much respect to you, Ike Taylor. You went out as a Steeler. You played your career as a Steeler. Much respect. A lot of guys don't do that now, nowadays in the NFL.
Right, but I would like to challenge. Ike Taylor. I don't think you can cover me. I'm sorry.
Don't believe it. But anyway, we have some other things going on with the Steelers in this offseason. Let's get to James Harrison.
Another Pittsburgh Steeler who could have retired, but he didn't want to hang up the cleats again. James Harrison, 2 more years with Pittsburgh Steelers. I wouldn't say controversy, but there's one spot that he plays pretty much predominantly, and that's right defensive end, along with number 1 pick, Jarvis Jones. Now, do you see this as a problem, Big Tiz? Do you see if Harrison starts over Jarvis Jones Do you think that would make him a bust? Or do you think by the Pittsburgh Steelers signing Harrison that this is going to, bring something out of Jarvis Jones for him to be more productive?
I believe that's what it is. And you know what? If you want to get the best out of a player, that player needs to be pushed. Because if he feels like he has no one behind him or nobody to push him, this guy will go into that lackadaisical type play. And that's what's been happening with this guy. But now he sees an older player that's behind him and pushing him. And the Steelers wanted that, and an older player that's still productive pushing him. This guy knows the light is on him now. So now if he doesn't produce this year, next year is going to be up in the air for him. And you don't want to go into next year having a bad year this year and don't know what your next free agency market is going to be. So he has to put out this year for the Steelers. There's a lot of players that have to put out for the Steelers this year as well, being a younger team that they're going to now. So there are a lot of players that have to put out. And speaking of players that's putting out, Le'Veon Bell, he's out of Pittsburgh right now for the first 3 games, as I said, for the 2015 season, Big O.
Yeah, technically suspended for 4 games with pay. 3 games he cannot play. The 4th game he can play, but I guess that's for free. And there's a lot of speculation. Why would Le'Veon Bell appeal this decision? Why would he appeal this punishment? And people are probably scratching their heads. We all know he was, in court of law. He did what he did against the law. He broke the law. We got it. I get that. But what happens is he's being penalized with the new code of conduct policy. Now, this crime was committed way before the new code of conduct policy came to light. So now his appeal basically is saying, hey, you can't go back, and change the punishment with this new policy. And basically, if that's true, we might even only see 1 game, maybe 2 max suspension for Le'Veon Bell. Hopefully he gets his appeal because I agree. He's got to be punished somehow.
Right.
He committed a crime. That's there. You can't change that. But the punishment, you just can't create this new rules and regulations, then go back and say, well, this you broke the new conduct, the code of conduct. Not saying that maybe he might have had a change of heart. Maybe he wouldn't have did what he did if he knew the code of conduct policy was this stringent. However, if they do it with him, everybody else who is in the past who's committed a crime, who's been punished, they got to do the same thing. And because of that, Pittsburgh had to go out and sign another running back, Big Tiz.
All right. And then speaking of that, we had to sign D'Angelo Williams from the Carolina Panthers. Now, D'Angelo, like I said, Big O, you thought it was an okay pick, for them to sign him. I didn't really like it because the guy can never really stay healthy. But in the scheme of things, looking at it, and I did some research on it, we kind of need him a little bit just to get past that 3 to 4 game span when Le'Veon is going to be out. And this guy might fill that bill. But the thing about it is, we still need somebody who's going to, take the load off of Le'Veon Bell, because Le'Veon, these two or 250 to 300 carries a year. Don't get me wrong, you're like a workhorse for a back, but a back that's going to be injured is no good to you, Big O.
No, that's true. And let's not forget that D'Angelo Williams had to share a backfield with another Pro Bowl caliber running back. So you throw in a couple injuries, sharing carries. He's going to be 32 years old, I think 33, but he doesn't have the body, the wear and tear that somebody who's been in NFL as long as he has, 6-7 years, and carrying the ball 300 times a year and getting bashed up and injured like that. That's to be said. So when he comes in, I think it's a perfect fit, an excellent change of pace back, but he's going to carry the reins to this horse when we start the 2015 season, and I think it's a great. He's been around the league. He knows he can mentor Le'Veon Bell for future games,
right?
Because he's I wouldn't say seasoned veteran yet, but he's been around the league over 6 years, so I'm pretty sure he knows what's going on, especially what's going on, because what is going on with Antonio Brown?
That's what a lot of people want to know. Antonio Brown is all of a sudden now he's starting to see the dollar signs. Big O, don't get me wrong, this guy, he didn't show up for the first day of conditioning camp, but this guy, like I said, phenomenal receiver, phenomenal talent. You get 2 players in one. You get a kick returner, a dangerous kick returner, punt returner. 3 players in one. Punt returner, and you get a heck of a wide receiver. But the thing about it is, Antonio Brown is only 2 years into 2 to 3 years into a 6-year contract.
Yeah.
Worth $43 million. And don't get me wrong, does he deserve the money? Maybe he does. I mean, he's outproduced a lot of the top caliber wideouts in the NFL right now. But the thing about it is, show your mustard right now. Do it this year and next year, because you know the Steelers had to buckle down because the Steelers had to get Big Ben paid.
I agree 100% with you, Big Tiz. You know what? With the Pittsburgh Steelers, fans at home, if you've been a Steelers fan for as long as we have, we understand how the Rooneys run the organization.
Right.
If you deserve to get paid, you will get paid. The Rooneys don't like gimme, 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 you owe me, you owe me. You have to produce. Did he have a stellar year last year? Absolutely. One of the best years of a wide receiver in Pittsburgh has since Louis Lips, Lynn Swann, John Stallworth. Great, dependable wide receiver. Over 84% of the throws in the red zone went to Antonio Brown. And that was a problem with our red zone because everybody keyed up on Antonio Brown because Roethlisberger didn't throw it to anybody else, but we'll talk about that at another time and place. But to come out, this is poor timing to come out with this, with the draft. You have 3 more years left on the contract. Wait till at least halfway through the season to see where you're at. Now, if you're picking up where you left off last year, then you could talk money, but you can't come into a new season before even voluntary workouts came in and start, not demanding. We won't say demanding because that's a harsh word, demanding. He's really not demanding anything yet, but just talking about it, ruffling my feathers. But just let's see, because he could have the worst season of his career this year. I hope to God he doesn't, but talk money, when it's out there, when you're playing.
Right.
But poor timing with that. I don't know if it's his agent starting this or if it's him, but he did send out a cryptic tweet about "I will be there."
Yeah, and I believe he will. Like I said, this is a quality receiver, quality guy. So let's hope that, right now, it is what it is. It's something that came out, and he will be there, and he's stating that in tweets. So let's hope it goes that direction. But, guys, I wanted to let you guys know we have a timer right now going at the bottom of the screen. And this timer, we set it for 20 minutes because we wanted to get everything out in the news that's going on in Pittsburgh, in the league. And also before we got to the draft with the countdown, the 20-minute timer, we wanted to, go through it. Things to get you guys caught up because we've been down for the offseason. And right now, this is an exciting time of the year for the Steelers and for SteelerNationLive.net. Go there. Remember, check us out, www.SteelerNationLive.net. But one thing we want to talk about that just came out recently was the 2015 Pittsburgh Steelers NFL schedule, Big O.
All right, preseason, we're going to do this really quick. The Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio against the Minnesota Vikings. We will be the visitors. That's when the Bucs will be enshrined to the Hall of Fame. Package is still available. I think we're going to get our package, Big Tiz. We need to go there and celebrate this. Week 1, we're going to be down in Jacksonville, Florida. It seems like we play these Florida teams all the time, usually the Panthers or the Jaguars. Week 2, Green Bay will come to town in Pittsburgh for a preseason game. Week 3, Buffalo will be at Buffalo. Steelers, we might be at that game as well. But remember, the last time we went to a preseason game, Buffalo, DeCastro was lost for the season. And, yes, we are playing the Panthers. Week 4, the last game, we always play the Panthers Thursday, September 3rd. Always a Thursday game, always against the Panthers, and always a good show. Now, the regular schedule has come out, and everybody knows, unless you live under a rock, I with all the teams we're playing, I do predict 11-5 season, Big Tiz, and we'll go over it really quick.
Right.
First game, we'll open up a Thursday night game. We have 3 Thursday night games, Big Tiz, and 2 Sunday night games this year. No Monday night games and no weird, crazy things. So first game is at New England, and as I go over the schedule, I'll tell you my pick, win or lose. Okay? We're at New England, we lose this game. We come back, we host the 49ers, we win that game. Then we go to St. Louis to play the Rams, week 3. We win that game. Come back home, host the Ravens. We win that game. Then we go the other West Coast to the Chargers. We win that game. Then after that we come back, we host the Cardinals. We win that game. Then we go to Kansas City. We lose that game. I'm saying we lose this game because that's a team that we should beat. We're going to lose to those guys. Then we come home for a 3-game homestead. We host the Bengals, win. Raiders, we're going to lose that game.
Right.
I hate to say it, folks, but it's going to be a low-scoring game, too. We lose to the Raiders. We host the Browns. We beat them, of course. Then we have a bye, thank God, because after that we fly out West Coast again to those crazy Seahawks.
Yeah, another rough ride out there.
And it's going to be a close game, but I don't think we beat these guys. That's another loss. Come back home, host the Colts. We win that one in a close one. Go to Cincy. We beat the Bengals again. We're going to sweep Bengals. We're going to sweep the Browns. Come back home, host the Broncos. We're going to beat the Broncos. We're going to play them at home. We got Steeler air, and we're going to win this game. And then we go to Baltimore, and then we finish out the season. We're going to win that game. No, wait. I think we lose that one at Baltimore. And then from Baltimore, we go to Browns. We beat the Browns again. So we end the season 11-5, Big Tiz.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful timing, Big O. As you can know, the bell is getting ready to sound, or it just sounded actually, for the mock draft to start here on Steeler Nation Live. You know, we did our 20 minutes here, got the news out to you guys quick as we can to get you guys caught up here on Steeler Nation Live. So, Big O, let's start this 2015 Steeler Nation Live mock draft.
But hey, let's pay some bills first. Let's pay some bills, and then we'll come back and we'll start off with our draft last year. We'll briefly talk about last year's draft. Then we'll kick it in full throttle this year's draft. SteelerNationLive.net.
Uniform Express, located on 1408 Buffalo Road, Rochester, New York, for your police, fire, or EMS supplies. One of Rochester's top and finest suppliers of shirts, pants, shoes, boots, and accessories for your professional uniform needs. Uniform Express also does embroidery and screen print for team uniforms, jerseys, and corporations. Hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can also go to their website at www.uniformexpress.com or call Brian at 585-529-4245. That's 585-529-4245. And let Brian know you heard his ad on our show, Steeler Nation Live.
Welcome back to Steeler Nation Live. I'm Big O.
I'm Big Tiz.
And right now, part of the show, we're going to go briefly, quickly over last year's draft, the players we got, what have they done for us lately. And we're going to start off with the number one pick, Ryan Shazier, linebacker, Ohio State. 9 games, started 5, 24 solo tackles, 12 assisted, no interceptions, no fumbles, and no sacks.
Well, you know, like I said, it was a hard year for this guy. You know, rookie, came in, showed promise in the preseason. Had some injuries that kind of slowed him, but he came on in certain instances during the season. So I think that was actually not that bad of a season for him.
No. Stephen Tuitt, defensive lineman from Notre Dame. 16 games, only started 4. 11 solo tackles, 6 assisted tackles, 1 fumble, forced, no interceptions, and 1 sack.
Not bad. First year guy.
Here's we don't want to say the GOAT of the draft, but this was our number 3 pick, Dree Archer from Kent State. 12 games he played in, didn't start 1, 10 carries for 40 yards, 7 receiving yards. Number 3 pick, Big Tiz.
Well, like I said, this guy, out of all, the one that really has a lot of upside to him, but he has to believe in himself. And this guy, he has the speed, and doesn't have that great size, but he has the speed, and he can be a game breaker. But the thing about it is, I believe the Steelers are going to try to give him this last chance this year to try to get himself, put him in positions to where he can succeed.
Right, and another problem with that, not to make excuses, is that the Steelers got themselves into deep trouble last year, where primarily had to throw the ball with injuries to the offensive line and a lot of schemes that weren't working. So he was taking out of the equation.
Right.
You're 5'7", 120 pounds, soaking wet. There's really not much you can do. Try to throw him on punt returns, kick returns. He still has to mature as a kick punt returner in the NFL because he really didn't excel that much. Like we talked earlier about the 1 draft pick, the number 4 pick, Martavis Bryant, was the squeaky wheel who's going to get the grease, the one that the Pittsburgh Steelers really wanted to mold and develop into that number 3 wide receiver. And actually, 10 games, 3 started, 26 receptions, 549 yards, 8 touchdowns, receiving touchdowns. He was a deep threat for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, he was. That guy came out, like I said, like gangbusters, and he proved that, the NFL is a place where he wants to stay and where he's going to be. So right now, this guy was one of the better picks in that draft for us.
Right, and the thing I like about him a lot is his maturity level. After coming out his rookie year and doing as good as he did, I don't hear anything about dollar signs.
Right.
Which is a great thing. Very mature for his young man. Jordan Zumwalt, linebacker, had a lot of hopes. The Pittsburgh Steelers had a lot of hopes of molding this guy into, a premier linebacker, but he only made the practice squad. I think he's still there now. Didn't play any games last year. Didn't start any games. May have seen some special teams during the season. Not really too much to record off for stats from special teams. Maybe, force a fumble or a couple solo tackles or whatnot. But hopefully he'll develop this year in one of the 13 linebackers the Steelers do have, whether it's practice or the main roster, to develop this young kid, and I think he has high hopes for him. Daniel McCullers, nose tackle, 9 games, 1 start, 1 solo tackle, 1 assisted tackle. And tight end Rob Blanchflower. He's on the practice squad. I had hopes for this kid, but some things just don't pan out, Big Tiz.
Yeah, that's why these guys go in there with their nose wide open and they're ready to do whatever they can to make a team. And sometimes, they only make it as far as the front door. And these guys put out their effort, and much respect to these guys for coming out there and trying to be what is known as the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's right. So we're going to shift gears from 2014. We're going to fast forward to the future, 2015, the present time right now. And we're going to go over, there's a bunch of players. It's not that deep of a draft, but with the positions that the Pittsburgh Steelers need, not want, are fruitful. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to go over, the positions, a couple players that the Steelers have been looking at since the combine, and basically over the the off season, keeping an eye on these kids. And what's going to happen? We're going down the list of what me and Big Tiz feel are needs, not wants. And number 1 need is obviously cornerback.
Right.
And the Steelers need to get somebody back there who can, dependable, reliable. If we cannot get the pressure on the quarterback, can we have guys covering? And Big Tiz, who did you see that might be a possible fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Right now, the Steelers have been doing a lot of deep looking at their number 1 pick, who they would think or want to be their number 1 pick, is Trey Waynes, cornerback out of Michigan State. Now, this guy is 6 foot, 186 pounds, 31-inch arms. But the thing about it is can this guy still be there by the time the Steelers get on the draft board to pick this guy? I say no.
Right.
But the Steelers have been taking a lot of deep looks at him because the Steelers are really, really hurting at cornerback. And they've been looking at a lot of other places as well besides him. One of the other ones is Jalen Collins. This guy is a cornerback out of LSU.
Right.
And, he went to Pittsburgh, interviewed, and, sat with Mike Tomlin, talked and everything, and they liked a lot about his football IQ and different things like that. 6'1.5", 203 pounds, 32.5-inch arms as well. But this guy, he doesn't really have that speed, but he has the rare physical tools that the Steelers need in a cornerback right now. Same with Polamalu. Polamalu didn't have that great speed, but he had great football IQ. And that's what this guy has. But the number 1 pick I think the Steelers will make this year will be Kevin Johnson, cornerback out of Wake Forest. 6 foot and a quarter inch, 188 pounds with 31-inch arms. This guy, in film, this guy is fast. He's a fierce hitter. And like I said, he's a ball hawk. And that's what the Steelers need right now.
Right. And another need the Pittsburgh Steelers need, another need we need, is a defensive lineman, that edge pass rusher. Now, you got a couple guys that you were looking at as well, Big Tiz.
Right.
And who do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers should pick, but who are we also looking at before?
Right. Number 2 for the Steelers in this year's 2015 draft, that the potentials that the Steelers were looking at, I said Leonard Williams, a defensive end out of USC, 6'4.5", 302 pounds. This guy has some of the skills of a Tuitt. You know what? But, you know, a little smaller. But like I said, Cam Hayward and other ones referred to this guy as one heck of a player, a great player. So the Steelers were looking at this guy as well. Like I said, the Steelers know they have these needs and they've been looking all over the board for these guys. Another guy, Arik Armstead out of Oregon, defensive end, 6'7.5" 292 pounds.
Wow.
Holy smoke. You talking about a guy that's going to block out the sun, big O.
Yeah.
33.5" arms, 10.5" hands.
Wow.
You know what I'm talking about? You ever had a face slap, big O?
Not recently.
Okay, but this guy, the way he slaps, it is tremendous with 10.5" hands. Ooh. Oh my God. But like I said, a good prospect coming out of Oregon, and the Steelers liked him as well. But Big O, I see, as the Steelers' number 2 pick for the Steelers, Carl Davis, nose tackle and a defensive end out of Iowa, 6'4.5", 320 pounds. Ooh. Like I said, the Steelers are looking for a guy like this. He has a lot of tremendous value for the Steelers, and he can fit almost any position that the Steelers need across the line. Especially, the Steelers been lacking a lot of pressure up the middle on the defensive end side of the ball, right. You know, with that nose plug. And this guy might be, you know, the next Casey Hampton. Right,
and you know, we had a lot of trouble with our edge rushers overplaying the run, and these guys coming up the middle, and we've seen it many times, these quarterback sneaks or whatever that option's called, that the quarterbacks were just destroying us up the middle. We need to take care of that. And the number 3 pick, believe it or not, folks, we think we need a running back. We need another running back because, like you said earlier, Big Tiz, Le'Veon Bell, as good as he is, he can't carry the ball 300. We cannot, you know, force this guy to do all these carries.
Right.
Now, what we need is a change of pace back. De'Allen Williams, he's not the future. He's the duct tape. He's the chewing gum. He's just, you know, the tourniquet to stop the bleeding for now. Because when we were out Le'Veon Bell probably for the first 3 games, we're going to need somebody to fill in that role. And we've looked at a bunch of prospects. Who are the Steelers looking at, Big Tiz, as far as running back?
Well, just like everybody else out there, for the number 3 pick for the Steelers, they are going to look at a running back, and I believe one of them is Todd Gurley, running back from out of Georgia, 6'5", 222 pounds, great speed. This guy is, you know, Olympic speed, 4.3 in the 40. But the thing about it is, let's not even kid ourselves. This guy's not going to be there.
No, he won't be around.
But the Steelers, like I said, they had to entertain the thought just like everybody else, you know. And the Steelers were also looking at Jay Ajayi out of Boise State, running back, 5'11".
That kid is fast.
Oh, yeah, 221 pounds, nimble feet, tricky moves, excellent speed. The acceleration from this guy, this is a lot of things the Steelers might be lacking in certain areas, and this is the man to do it. They do have a great back in Le'Veon Bell, but it does have to help, to have that 1-2 punch, Big O. But I see the Steelers picking as a number 3 pick for this year in the 2015 NFL Draft, Jeremy Langford out of Michigan State. And you know how the Steelers love Michigan State. That's where that's where they got Le'Veon Bell. And they'll get another running back machine from out of there, Jeremy Langford. 6 foot, 208 pounds, almost the same type build as Le'Veon Bell. A power runner, and this guy has a lot of wiggle to him. So this is what the Steelers will need, and it will help with that 1-2 punch that the Steelers are lacking, Big O.
Right, I agree with that. And number 4, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go for that edge pass rusher. Because like I said earlier, we need coverage. If we have over 13 linebackers right now, we have 7 defensive ends that had great potential to be edge rushers for being in the league for, you know, a year or 2, whatever. They know what they have to do. But if they can step it up, we get the corner, we get the safeties, you know, in check. Palomalu's not there. Ike Taylor's not there. So that means Shamarko Thomas is going to have to step up. Mike Mitchell's going to have to take that strong safety spot. And so I believe they had enough years to come back and do this and cover. Now, if we get these edge rushers that we have now, maybe get one in the 4th round. And a lot of prospects we got, and I'm glad I got this guy. Owamagabe.
Yeah, I'm glad he got it too.
Odi Hizua.
Yeah.
Good luck. UCLA. Interviewed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. 6'3", 267 pounds. long arms, 33 3/4. That's like a 737. Those wings, the wingspan. The young man with the difficult name can be best described as bigger, but just as strong, if not stronger, than James Harrison, but a little bit more bent to the body because James Harrison is like a fire hydrant. You know, there's not much give to this guy. Let's see. His performances at both the combine and his pro day confirmed that he has enough maneuverability to drop back into coverage. Now, when you got a big guy like that who can cover, you're thinking of like a Lawrence Timmons.
Right.
Somebody who's agile and big. Okay? He's relentless. He's got a relentless motor. This kid is constantly on the go. His consistent ability to disrupt the opposing offense and ability to dominate the line in the running game. This is what we need. He's also good at stuffing the run, combined with the fact that he played some 3-4 outside linebacker, and UCLA's hybrid system makes him one of the few prospects who might actually be able to contribute as a rookie if the Pittsburgh Steelers choose this guy. Another guy, outside linebacker, Shane Ray from Missouri. Interviewed and visited Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think he'll be around at this point of the draft, but it's always good to look at this kid. 245 pounds, 6'2", 33 and 1/8 inch arm wingspan. Back in the good old days when no one else played a 3-4 like the Pittsburgh Steelers, could have hoped for a player like Shane Ray, but like I said, don't think that he's going to be around. And Randy Gregory, his name was tossed around, Nebraska outside linebacker, 6'4", 238 pounds, 34-inch arms, but this kid has a lot of off-field problems. He got busted for marijuana at the combine. Does that remind you of anybody? Mike Adams. But, you know, we gave him a chance.
Right.
But this Randy Gregory, I do believe that he has too many off-field problems, too many headaches for the Roonies, and the Steelers, the waste of draft pick in time to pick him up. But if Alvin Bud Dupree from Kentucky is still available at this deep in the draft, I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers will take him. 6'4", 269 pounds, 32 and 5/8 inch arm. He's a former tight end in Kentucky that was transformed into an outside linebacker. Ridiculous numbers at the combine, but I don't really hold that much weight because when you're doing the combine, Big Tiz, you got to think about it. You're wearing pretty much nothing, and
right.
you do these numbers with pads on and a helmet, then we could talk. But anyways, the only downside to this Dupree, which is a good downside, which may, you know, shun teams away from picking him, is that he hasn't dominated the way that you like to see this kid dominate. The highlight films, you know, great tackling ability, great pressure to the quarterback, great tackle behind the line of scrimmage, but that's all good and said. But he has a lot more to give, and I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers, they signed him in the 4th round. I think this is the kid to do it. Okay.
Hey, there you go, guys. Already we just finished out the 4th round, going into the 5th round, and Big O, who do you think the Steelers will be coming around with for the 5th round for the Steelers in this 2015 NFL draft?
Now, this is pretty not funny. It's ironic that we chose that a wide receiver would be picked pretty much the middle of the draft, and that has nothing to do with Antonio Brown starting to come up with the dollar figures. We pretty much have our 3 guys.
Right.
We need that 4th guy. Hayward Bay, is he the 4th guy? Slot receiver. I mean, he's been around the league. He can do the job. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at a lot of wide receivers, and Amari Cooper from Alabama, 6'1", 211 pounds. It's not going to happen, Big Tiz.
Right.
Because I do believe the Oakland Raiders will take him in the 1st round, 4th pick. This kid is the real deal. I mean, if we really, really needed a wide receiver, I think the Steelers would trade up to get this kid. Devontae Parker, wide receiver, Louisville, 6'3", 209 pounds. That's not going to happen either. Like I said, but if he fell to maybe the 22nd spot, which I doubt is going to happen, maybe Pittsburgh might pick him in the 1st round, because we all know Steelers pick for want, not for need, and hopefully that will change. But Big Tiz, I do believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers sit down for this one. Tony Lippett, wide receiver, cornerback for Michigan State. Now, 6'2", 192 pounds, long arms. He's a two-way player in Michigan State who intrigues everyone that's looking for the next Richard Sherman. I don't know if he has the mouth as Richard Sherman, but he can play just like it, but he's a two-way player. And that would be beautiful for Pittsburgh Steelers because that way you get a top-notch wide receiver and you get a cornerback. Pittsburgh is one of the few teams that might actually use him in a two-way capacity that we would probably hope that he'd change his mind and put corner as a higher priority. So that's our fifth pick. Number 6, we get a comp pick in the 6th round, but the first pick is 6th round, Big Tiz. I think we're going for a tight end. Talk to me.
Well, we got a lot of prospects out there, and one of the prospects is Max Williams, who the Steelers actually interviewed out of Minnesota. This guy is 6'3" and 6'3" and a half, 249 pounds, 33 and a half inch arms. Like I said, he's a great leaper, has great hands, but you know what? Sometimes he's an iffy blocker from time to time, but you know what? The Steelers probably feel like this is a guy they can try to work on because of his other great intangibles. Let's look at some of the other guys the Steelers have been looking at. Ben Koyak, a tight end out of Notre Dame. He was also interviewed for the Steelers. 6'5", 255 pounds, 32 and a half inch arms. And this guy is another multifaceted tight end, and he will rise in the draft. You know, because right now it's kind of a weak class for the tight end, and he can probably get himself up there where he can possibly be picked up by the Steelers or one of the other clubs out there as well. But as for the 6th pick, the first 6'8" pick for the Steelers, we see Jesse James selected by the Steelers. He was also interviewed by the Steelers out of Penn State, a tight end. 6'7", 261 pounds. This guy has 33-inch arms, and Jesse James is basically a freak of nature. This guy has the height, the speed, the strength, and he has it all. And this guy can do a lot of damage. Almost, you know what, you got to start looking at tight ends because Heath Miller is getting up there in years, you know. Other issues, ailments, the knee, you know, problems. This guy looks like he might be the one the Steelers might have to get in that draft, so I can see him being selected as the 6th spot for the Steelers in this 2015 draft.
Right, and not to mention, we need to add, you know, depth in the tight end position. Now, Heath Miller is basically a receiving tight end. We have Matt Spaeth, we signed for another 2 years, primarily a blocking tight end.
Right.
Rob Blanchflower, who we talked about, who was on the practice squad, another blocking tight end. And there's a lot of tight ends that you've mentioned that are primarily blocking, except for Jesse James. He's in that configuration that he doesn't know what he is right now because he does everything. He does it so well.
Right.
And for the Pittsburgh Steelers to grab Jesse James, because not a lot of teams have even mentioned this kid's name, because he's in a developmental phase. Now, this kid, underneath the wings of Heath Miller, one of the best tight ends in NFL history, not because he's a Pittsburgh Steelers, because the way this man is a professional, and the way he plays football, and the way he plays the game is beyond anything that we can possibly ask for. And for him to play under Miller, Miller's on his last and final year, probably he's going to retire after this season, depending on how, you know, whatever it is, he does great, he does bad, which we hope he doesn't, but he does great. And for this young kid from Penn State, could be a local hero, a local football town hero for Penn State, and playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers like a Dan Marino from Pitt years ago could have been that hometown hero. But we passed him up like 20 other teams. But I hope we get this kid to learn and build from Heath Miller. And for the comp pick, I do believe we're going to pick another cornerback. Alex Carter from Stanford, another kid, up and coming, tough, cover cornerback who can, you know, make the big hit, who can do the open field tackle, who can actually cover somebody in one-on-one positions. But here's a big surprise. Well, not necessarily a big surprise, because I do see the Steelers getting a quarterback in this draft. Why? Because we tried it with Landry Jones, failed miserably. When you take a kid from his stats from Oklahoma and what he did, and when we signed him, he was our future. But when your future can't even make the number 2 quarterback and you're barely the number 3 quarterback, that, you know, it's time to change the channel. It's time to look forward. And there's a couple quarterbacks that we put our heads together, and these are pretty much, I wouldn't say not your basic household names, but guys like Bryce Petty from Baylor, 6'2", 230 pounds, showed off tremendous talent at the combine, and he's been a winner throughout his college career. Even though he's not that household name, I do believe he's going to go before the 7th round. He's more like a 3rd or 4th round pick for a team who's looking, kind of like now in the near future for a quarterback. Also, we looked at Brandon Bridge, quarterback, South Alabama. He's 6'4", 229 pounds. Tremendous athlete, Big Tiz. Great arm, somewhat erratic mechanics, good accuracy, though, when the mechanics are on, and virtually no experience at the position. I mean, South Alabama really didn't have that much of competition to see what this kid could really do. If the Steelers draft a quarterback, it will be the intention of training him, because we got Ben for at least 3 more years. But the quarterback that we have chosen would be Sean Mannion, quarterback, Oregon State, 6'6", 229 pounds. What does that remind you of?
Big Ben
very
numbers.
few quarterbacks on this year's board because the Steelers have very specific need. A late round bargain who might mature into something special and save the team from, if disaster ever strikes with Ben going down. And I do believe, looking at this kid, his highlights and what he has done for Oregon State, I think he'd be a no-brainer for a backup to Big Ben. There's going to be a lot of competition. And don't forget Taj Boyd that the Pittsburgh Steelers signed for a year. He's also in the running. Brad Gradkowski. And also we mentioned, Landry Jones, which I don't think he'll be in a Steeler uniform. I think he'll be more of a practice squad. So I think that's going to fill out the first 7 rounds. But we do need a quarterback like this kid. Check out the highlight. We'll show some highlights, some pictures of this kid, Sean Mannion, Oregon State.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, great pickup.
Well, like I said, there you have it, guys, here from us on Still Nation Live. Number 1, Kevin Johnson, cornerback out of Wake Forest. Number 2, Carl Davis, defensive lineman out of Iowa.
Beast.
Yep. Number 3, Jeremy Langford, running back out of Michigan State. Number 4 pick for the Steelers, Alvin Bud
Dupree.
Yeah, I thought it said Bird on his paper. Linebacker from out of Kentucky. Number 5, Tony Lippett, wide receiver, both way type player from out of Michigan State. I'd love to see that if that happens. I hope that does happen, to be honest. And one of the great picks out there, tight end Jesse James for the Steelers. Great pick from out of Penn State. And the second pick, the comp pick for the Steelers, Alex Carter, cornerback out of Stanford. And the final pick, as Big O just alluded to earlier, Sean Mannion, quarterback out of Oregon State. Like I said, the Steelers have a great potential out of these players right here to add to their quartet of players the Steelers already have on the roster as we speak right now. And I believe that these guys can contribute to the Steelers as well and make the Steelers a great force this year in 2015, Big O.
Absolutely. And we're hoping that this draft class is a lot better than last year, but there's a lot of hope for this season. Pittsburgh Steelers, if they stay healthy, they're going to win a lot of games. If they play to win and play the game, play 60 minutes of football, we're going to get a lot more victories. But like I alluded to earlier, the schedule, Kansas City, Oakland, teams that we should dominate.
Right.
I do believe we're going to lose these games. We're not going to win every game this year, folks. I'm sorry. It sounds kind of, pessimistic that, I'm picking, this is going to lose this game, that game. But, folks, remember, do the math. I only picked 5 games that we're going to lose. And there's 11 wins that we're going to come out, big wins against, the 49ers at home, against the Broncos at home. This schedule for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year is the toughest schedule out of the whole NFL. And if you look back a couple years ago when this happened again, we made it to the playoffs again. We had one of the best records in the NFL. So, with that being said, no injuries, play Steeler football, smash mouth football, a good draft. I think you're going to see Pittsburgh obviously in the playoffs this year and all the way to the Super Bowl.
Right. And like we said, we want to thank you guys for joining us here tonight on Still Nation Live, checking us out, checking out the draft that we have here, and check us out, and also check out how the actual draft goes for the Steelers to see if we come somewhat close. And I think you'll be surprised. Like I said, we putting 2 heads together, and we do our research a lot, and this is what we came up with. And sometimes you have to reach for some sleepers in the bud, like Alvin Bud here. But the thing about it is, sometimes those are the diamonds in the rough, Big O.
Or like Carl Davis that you picked from Iowa, like the Beast. This kid is unheard of. Not many people, scouts, that are talking about this kid. But we saw film, we looked at this kid, we researched him, and we don't want to be those guys that everybody follows the Pittsburgh Steelers and hangs on their coattails and say, well, you know what, the Pittsburgh Steelers think that this guy's gonna, so I'm gonna say that too.
Right.
Granted, you know.
Yeah, you got to reach out the box. If you're going to be honest and you're going to talk about football and you're going to try to get the knowledge and try to act like, you know, you're doing your mock draft and things like that, reach out and do some research and try to see who you think would be the best, not what the Steelers would, you know, come up with themselves or what's the obvious. Do the picks and do them yourself, and like we do here on Still Nation Live. But you know what? Before we go, we want to actually make and pay homage to one of the great running backs here in this offseason, you know, who just got into the Hall of Fame.
The bus.
Jerome Bettis. Like I said, this guy played great years with the Steelers. Before that, had a lot of years with the not a lot, maybe 2 years or so with the LA Rams at that time. And, you know, came over to the Steelers. They got to admit that's one of the worst picks that they let slip away.
Right.
And we got him.
What was it? 2000. All right. 2006, I believe, was the draft. Pittsburgh Steelers gave up a second-round pick. No, I'm sorry. The Steelers gave up a third-round pick of that year and a fourth-round pick for 2007 for Jerome Bettis and a second-round pick that year. And that's because the Rams signed Lawrence Phillips, I believe, running back. And I think he played 2 games that year. And look what the bust has done for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Continue that running game, that ground and pound tradition. Franco Harris, Rocky Bleier. The names go on. The list is long but distinguished. And continue that great tradition of running the football for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Has a Super Bowl ring on his hand. What does Lawrence Phillips have? I don't know. Maybe he's selling insurance or something.
I'm not even sure if he got handcuffs on his hands, to be honest.
Oh, boy.
But the thing about it is, like I said, this guy, he stood the test of time, and he played, you know, with everything he had in him. This guy was a formidable running back for the Steelers for a lot of years, and he became the face of the Steelers at one point. Led us a title, and Detroit won it that year. This guy is a great, great asset to the Steelers, and we like to pay homage to you, the bus, Jerome Bettis. And thanks for the many great years that you gave us, you know, being Steeler fans.
Maybe one day you can grace us with your presence on the show via phone call or video teleconference. We would love to have you on Steeler Nation Live. Bus, if you're watching this, Jerome, it's your invitation.
Exactly. So, guys, you know what? Till the regular season, Big O.
Yeah.
So, guys, have a great summer, and we'll see you guys later in August when we start up our own season again here, just like the players when they start up their preseason. Me and Big O probably be in our preseason form, but we'll be back in late August.
Oh, yeah. We'll be around.
Yep. So until we see you.
But you can always see us every day. www.steelnationlive.net. Check us out.
Great catch.
You like that, huh?
Guys, also, as you remember, leave pictures, you know, leave info about yourselves. We want to know you just like you want to know us, and we want to give it back to you guys. So like we said, till we see you after the summer, Big Tiz.
Big O.
We'll see you next time on Still Nation Live.